I want to move now toward like a difficult conversation, um, because I think this is going to actually help a lot of people uh, support. Like I think from what I kind of am hearing on different news channels, the people that are skeptical of Ukraine is the people who feel like the way it's being portrayed in the media is like this beacon of paradise in terms of like um, there's no problems in the country, meaning outside of the war, right? Uh, and I think that bothers them a little bit because it kind of makes them feel like they're being lied to, and they feel like, well, if you're not telling us the truth about this, then what other things are not true. So I think it would be helpful to talk about a little bit of some of the kind of internal problems that Ukraine has faced or kind of is facing beyond just the war now. Is that okay with you?
Sure.
So, this in mind, I guess the first question is, what before the war, what were the main problems that people of Ukraine were facing? Like just, in Kiev, and what was kind of the when people were thinking, oh, what are the main problems that we have to deal with, that we have to face? What were they?
Well, I think before the war, there was truly lack of like Ukrainian identity in the daily routine. So, for example, in Kiev, almost 70% of people were talking on Russian on daily. So, like, you would hear Russian language out there more often than you would hear Ukrainian. So, luckily, like my school, it was like teaching in Ukrainian, but before the war, some schools were like teaching in Russian as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, like Ukrainian was like a language you would learn, but at the same time, like your lectures would speak in Russian to you, and like this is just in its core is very wrong, like
Yeah.
because it's just like sort of Soviet Union mindset that we're still sometimes in some schools around Ukraine, like in Kiev, it was more like Ukrainianized, and after the war, around like 90% of people speak like Ukrainian only, like
Yeah.
especially in public spaces. So like people truly are like understanding these cultural differences, and they're like understand that even like small things in daily routine that you do, it's essential to still like do it in Ukrainian.
Mm-hmm.
And uh, also one of the things that I particularly like saw this is unfortunately the corruption that was much more spread before the war. Like it was basically one of the reasons why we all the time were very unsatisfied with our government, because we have like a huge stock of finances who would be like who would we get from agriculture, for example, from like export,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time we would not really get them into like renovation of the country.
Yeah.
It would just get to someone's pocket. So that's why we would have such a thing as a Maidan. Like Maidan is just like a bigger thing where it was related to the war itself as well. But generally speaking, why we had like a change of our presidents and why we were not happy about our presidents just because of this point quite
Mm-hmm.
often. But because of the war, I think that Ukrainian nation itself, we just became more united,
Yeah.
and this like sense core of values, it just changed. So like you treat a lot of things differently now, and you just understand what is important. Well, one of the other things that I would mention is like how we are relying on the external support, so that we gave up all our weapons back then for like supervision of other countries, but at the same time when we actually need them, we cannot like get them.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the interesting things that like atomic weapons and bombs, like one of the scientists who was working like closely with Oppenheimer was a Ukrainian scientist. I did get to know that
Really?
recently. Yeah, I was really surprised. I was like, okay, so right, where is the like truth in it right now? Why can't we get access to something we actually created, sort of,
Hmm.
in like collaboration, but sort of anyway. So a lot of things like that. So relying on external support. I think this is a lesson we learned and the mistake we won't do again. Because I think every country, they're first of all for them is there will be they're not gonna sacrifice their relationships,
Right.
and there will be for other countries. So I think uh, our dependency is something that was
Hmm.
that the lesson we learned more during these times, and at the same time, the way that we basically sell all our sources we like gathered.
You export.
Yeah, a lot. We export a lot. I think generally speaking, we should more focus on like internal development
Hmm.
rather than only on selling and exporting it.
Mm. So it's national identity,
Yeah.
which it seems like, ironically, the war is fixing.
Yeah.
Corruption,
Yeah.
which do you think has gotten better?
I think it did, especially during like first year, it got much better.
Hmm.
Like after that, there started to be some ins and outs and conversation about it again, but I don't think that I have right to prove it or disprove it because I don't know. But at the same time, I think overall it get better because a lot of people right now they're doing, for example, private fundraisings.
Yeah.
So like we not only like donate to like the main funds of Ukraine, but we also like do the private donations with all the reports, and like a lot of people just spend money on the needs of like our armed forces,
Yeah.
like buying cars, weapons, tents, etc., anything they need, but give it directly to the like army groups, not to the government, which
Right.
also like sort of I don't know security behind the corruption. But overall, I would say it get much better.
Okay. And then the third one was reliance on external.
Yeah. Well, I think we cannot get rid of it right now easily. So I think it's just something we would hopefully adapt in our business model
Yeah.
in the future.
Cool. Cool. Okay. And in one of your many accomplishments, you were featured in Australian Vogue.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And during the interview, which I read, which you should all read, um, you said that Zelensky is the best president Ukraine has ever had.
yeah, I did.
Do you stand by that?
Well, when I said it, it was only like first months after the beginning of the war, and I think what a lot of Ukrainians appreciated that it was the first president who didn't run out of the country
Hmm.
like after some shit started going on. Like it was actually the first president who was like, "No, I'm staying. I'm here." Because like there was a situation when the US like suggested him to get the helicopter for him and his family to go
Yeah.
like to America or to Europe. And he said like I don't need an Uber. I need like some ways to protect myself in my
Yeah.
country. So like I think this is something that like conquered a lot of hearts of Ukrainians.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people know about that, but like Zelensky himself, he used to like be an actor. Like
Yes.
this is how he actually like got the voting because Ukraine wanted a president who would be representative of the nation
Yeah.
itself. And by standing whether he's the best president or not, when I said it, it was more of an emotional answer. Right now, I think there are always ins and outs, and people always need someone to blame. And I think so far, he's much a better choice that we could get during these circumstances. I
Hmm.
cannot judge whether it is the best for entire history, but I think his decisions and his support and his way of building international relationships is very beneficial for all of us, and we should appreciate that.
Mm. Well, I appreciate the honest answer. Um, okay. Do you think, I mean, we talked about this before, but so as I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, that there is some differences between Western Ukraine and Eastern Ukraine,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of like Western Ukraine, the Ukrainian language is stronger. We talked about,
Yeah.
the maybe the sense of nationalism is a little bit stronger in the West. We talk about the fight for national identity, but do you think that Ukraine right now is united?
Well, as they say, struggles like unite people, so I would say yes, and without hesitation,
Hmm.
much more than we used to. Like,
Do you think it'll stay that way?
hopefully. um, I really hope so. What I think that even if I have a lot of friends abroad and what I see that I can always count on them, doesn't matter for how long time we didn't catch up, like we cannot call each other for years, really for years. But like if someone would be coming into the city or country or they would need some help, we would always be like, sure, what do you need? Like, and I would say this kind of like lesson and struggle helps us to be more united, and I really hope that we will be like that
Hmm.
long term.
What is excluding the war in the sense of struggle? What is something that has united? What is something that unites all Ukrainians?
I think there is not one thing that I can mention. Like it's generally what unites every nation. Like if
Hmm.
you have a look at any nation, we all have the same factors of being united, like language, culture, fasts, economy, mentality, etc. Like I think all these things. And in our case, I think just war just gave it the boost. But if we don't consider it, generally speaking, I think mentality of Eastern Europe and Ukraine especially is like just unique itself. Like we
Hmm.
are very like straightforward and we are like very helpful, as I mentioned. Like we really cannot speak to someone for years and then like be okay with helping them out or like seeing them like as this time didn't pass. So I think this what really makes us united as well, like the similarities and the fact that when we like saw the outward, like we were in our bubble thinking that everything is okay and sometimes thinking it was like, oh, shall I go to US and get like to the university in America or Miami? Yeah, like how cool it would be to get like a scholarship and like move to Miami, etc. But actually when you move out there is a lot of stories of people who are like, I don't feel like at home because people don't understand me. Like even if though I speak the language, it's not the same. So I
Yeah.
think the fact that a lot of people moved out, they like united even more because they like started valuing. So there's a saying like you value only something that you already lost to
Hmm.
the most possible extent. So I think in this case that also unites us, like just mentality.
Yeah. Maybe this is an obvious question, but do you hypothetically want to return and live in Ukraine?
Of
Uh,
course, but I'm not sure about living only in Ukraine because I understand, realistically speaking, how long time it's gonna take to like to get back to financially, emotionally, basically position in society and within the nation, like to the extent it was before the war. So I would definitely leave two countries probably. Uh, I would spend a lot of time back home for sure
mm,
because I really miss home. But at the same time, I would travel more, and I would probably have like living abroad as well,
yeah.
just because I'm sort of used to it more right now in terms of like work, because I'm mainly working on the Western market right now. Um, and I think sort of like this limit of being only in one country, I just crossed it already. So I think I'll just try to like combine living in two countries. But definitely, I really miss Ukraine.